I don't think so.
Take a seat. We would be honored if you would join us.
We're honored that you're joining us on podcast and YouTube. We've done it. We made it. We said we were going to try to get it for the Acolyte, and here we are. We're on YouTube. I guess we're YouTubers now. Cool. It's what I thought was going to happen with my life. We're talking Acolyte today. It's going to be a great time. I'm really excited. I've been chewing on this for about 24 hours. I got a lot of thoughts. If you're new, like I said, first time on YouTube, welcome. I'm Tyler. I like to blow things up because I like to blow things up. With me, what he really needs is something only you can give him. Absolution. It's Cameron Porter.
Ooh, I do like absolution.
You really do, but do me a favor. Don't go killing yourself on the first episode. Like we just got on YouTube. It's been a long road. Please don't.
No, hey, listen. I'm in the midst of my quarter life crisis right now. I'm reaching for YouTube stardom.
Is that what's happening
I've
here?
got too much going on. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
we're vloggers.
We're vloggers now. Interesting. Well, if podcasting wasn't enough, yes, I guess we're YouTubing now. If you're listening to the podcast, we're up on YouTube. I appreciate everyone who's been listening. If podcasting is more your thing, please just keep listening like that. It's totally fine. But if you want to see face to the voice type thing, we're here. And let's just jump right on in. We're talking Acolyte today. Let's not waste any time. We've got 2 episodes of a brand new series. Again, it was like, for the last 24 hours, I've just been taking it in. I've watched it a few times now, each episode, and I'm just finding more and more every time I do. And I know that you've probably found some stuff that I haven't found. And so I'm ready to just jump right in. So usually we talk, we talk comics and things like that. And I'm sure we will maybe next week when we have a little bit more time.
Yeah.
But for right now, I'm saying let's just go right on in. Episode 1, Acolyte. You feeling it?
I did get caught up on the High Republic this weekend.
Great. Did you read?
I told you I was going to read to get caught up, to kind of get in the High Republic era mindset. It's going great so far.
Good.
I haven't read Shadows of Starlight.
Okay.
But the main line, I'm all the way through issue 7 or 8 maybe.
Okay.
So,
yeah 8 just came out, I think, this week.
Then 7, because I haven't picked up books yet.
Well, I just read 8. It's very, very interesting. I've got it in my stack right here. We'll talk some comics next week. We'll make that promise to viewers and listeners. All right. So let's just jump right into Acolyte, episode 1, Lost Found, written and directed by showrunner and show creator Leslie Headland. StarWars.com had this to say about the episode. When a young assassin, May, murders Jedi Master Indara on a remote planet, the Jedi Order is notified. They identify the killer as a former Jedi Padawan who left the Order prior to completing her training. Cameron, before we go in and sort of break this thing down, do some speculating, which we're going to try to hold off on till the end, but it's just going to come a point, I think, where the dam's just going to open up. So bear with us. We're going to be kind of getting into that a lot, I imagine. But what's your overall thoughts? First episode, brand new show. What are you thinking?
First episode, I think it accomplished a lot for one episode.
Okay, yeah.
We got way more. What am I trying to say here? We got way more in this episode than I feel like we usually get in the first episode of a Star Wars show.
Okay, yeah. There was definitely a lot of setting up to do.
Yeah, especially we've been seeing these clips, floating around and previews and whatever, and typically they'll release all the previews leading up to when the show comes out from the first half of the episodes, right?
Yeah.
So I knew what we were seeing clips of was going to be scattered, but everything that we got clips of was literally the first episode. I mean, the very first scene in the duel was just oh, okay, we're just right into it, which I kind of liked.
Yeah, because we saw that in theaters when we went and watched Phantom Menace, and I was like you, I was like, oh, this is the very beginning of this.
Yeah.
Interesting. And you're right, a lot of what we've seen in trailers, just a little bit with him going into the forest, and which I imagine probably will happen next episode. There was a lot that was already taken care of in terms of this first episode, in terms of what's in the trailer. So I like that too. It seemed like going in, I was like, there's going to be a lot of setting up to do because we're 100 years before the movies. We got to learn who all these people are. We got to get some idea as to what the state of the galaxy is. And dude, they handled it in such a, to me, I mean, masterful way. It didn't feel like I was getting some giant exposition dump, yet I really feel like I understand who all these characters are, how they're all connected, what their motivations are. It was very George Lucas in the sense of you really feel like you're getting dropped in the middle of this ongoing narrative.
Well, you have to, especially if you've got like all these brand new characters.
Right.
Like there's very little attachment or buy-in as a viewer to any of these characters yet because we don't know who they are. So they did a good job of just going level 100 right out the gate to kind of like throw you into it where it's not so slow moving where you're like, okay, what's that guy's name? And then who's that? And, So I walked away from the first episode like, I know what's going on. I know who's who. I know where we're going with this show.
Great. I will talk about some characters. I certainly have some characters that I really love, and I have my new my new least favorite Jedi. Ooh, so we'll get into that. The opening scene. I really want to start here because, again, I'm like, all right, so what's happening here? Like, what kind of Star Wars am I getting?
Yeah.
I'll never forget watching the first episode of The Mandalorian and being like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I mean, I loved it, but it's not what I thought it was. No. And you never really know. Different creators have different point of view. They have different things that they think Star Wars is. We've all learned different lessons from George. And so I'm like, what's this going to be? I got to say, I love, the opening crawl.
Dude, I was like, I like the stagnant crawl.
It was interesting. It reminded me of a little bit of what Dave did with Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And I did take a picture of that. Let me read the opening crawl, and then we'll go into the scene. 100 years before the rise of the Empire, it is a time of peace. The Jedi Order and the Galactic Republic have prospered for centuries without war. But in the dark corners of the galaxy, a powerful few learn to use the Force in secret. One of them, a lone assassin, risked discovery to seek revenge. Then we, get that very typical, but to me it'll never be overdone, just pan down.
Yeah.
And then we find ourselves in this town, and I felt like the design of the town, it looked great. Like, no knock. I'm not a volume hater, but you could just tell it's like, oh no, this is like, we built some sets here.
Yeah.
And I thought the aliens looked great. I felt like, one of the things that I love about, we were just watching through the prequels, and one of the things George does so well that sometimes the shows don't always nail is there's always so much happening in the background.
Yeah.
And this opening shot just had a ton of that.
Yeah.
We meet Master and Dara. Let's talk about that interaction between her and May. What were your impressions?
It was really it was really kind of off. It was like unsettling a little bit.
Okay.
Because she walks right up to her and is just like, come at me with all your might. It was obviously it was very samurai. We can already tell with this show they're going very much in that kind of direction with some of the style of fighting and whatever and tradition. But it was unsettling in the way that it just like you plop right down into it. She just walks up to her like kind of awkwardly at the bar. I mean, she walks up confidently, but it was definitely a really awkward interaction to watch because
it was.
She's just sitting there and she's like, face me, basically.
Yeah, and you can tell, it made more sense going back. She's trying to provoke her without using weapons because that was one of the tasks that she was apparently given from her master is you have to kill one with no weapons.
Yeah.
And so obviously she failed in that with Indara. Indara was extremely formidable.
Yeah.
I mean, really it was her, in a way, her compassion that did her in.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was a great battle. I did not expect it to go where it went. But yeah, and I was also shocked. Anytime a show kills off a character like that quick, you're like, whoa, okay, I'm like in it now. Like, what's going on?
Exactly.
So I felt I was locked in at that moment. I was like, dang, they just like killed the person that we've been seeing in like 60% of these trailers for the past couple of weeks.
It was, it kind of seemed like they would. We talked about that a little bit when we were speculating in last week's episode. But still, it was a gutsy move, and it does exactly what you said. The stakes are immediately like, we're killing Carrie Ann Moss here. Like, this is not a joke. And it, I wouldn't say that it showed me how powerful May was, because it was kind of a bit of a lame move. Yeah. Like trying to, distract her by killing some innocent guy. Yeah. But it did show how much resolve she has to get this done.
Cold-blooded.
And how strong her lust for vengeance really is.
Yeah, ruthless.
Here's something I want to make sure we talk about before we move on from this scene. And Dara recognized May. Yeah. Not OSHA.
Yeah, good.
She knew it was May. Mm-hmm. Because if it was OSHA, she would not have said, "Who trained you?" Yeah. That was like kind of like bone chilling when that realization came. It was like, oh wow, like she knows what's up.
She hasn't been in the Jedi Temple.
No. May's not been in the Jedi Temple. So the fact that she actually understood from the get-go, like, no, this is not like mistaken identity like everyone else had to deal with. She knew who May was. And man, I can't wait to talk about what might be going on. I mean, we have some pretty good crumbs that have been laid for this thing that apparently went down 16 years ago. But for whatever it was, and Dara definitely had some idea. So we then meet OSHA. Yeah. Not May. Yep. By the way, OSHA Anasia. She got the full name drop. So that means Mother Anasia is apparently her actual mother.
Maybe.
They said you lost your mothers and your sister. Yeah. So I can't quite tell if it's like a matriarchal society and everyone that's older than you is your mother, or if Mother Anasia is her biological mother. Yeah. I'm not really sure. Yeah, I mean, but I imagine we'll get some.
I did catch that they said that duplicate, so it could be we could be having like a Dathomir type, like society. Where it's very matriarchal.
So I thought that was pretty cool. Also, Nemoidians,
dude. I was stoked to see those.
Confirmation of the Trade Federation, by the way.
Yep. I was like, there it is.
They said Trade Feds. I was like, Trade Feds. So we have the Trade Federation going on. And there's a lot. We can really nerd out on Trade Federation for quite a minute. It seems like they're still trying to operate within the rules of the Republic. Yep. But you can also tell that they are beginning to sort of like push and test the waters of not.
Yeah, what do we know this great honor for Jedi to board? It's like
he started talking a little different when the Jedi came on board.
I was glad that they maintained the fact that the Nemoidians like mouths don't match their words.
So let's talk about the way the Nemoidians talk. The guy, the male Nemoidian. Yeah. I mean, I understand the criticism that the prequels came. I get it. Come on, guys. I know. I'm old enough to remember and to yes, I got it. I liked that they seemed to kind of still lean into. It seemed like it was like as far as I could tell, like a Japanese male doing the voice. I did kind of miss the cartoonish. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of missed the cartoonish nature.
That's what I was gonna ask: was there a bad take on the?
Well, yeah,
because it was like Asian accent for Nemoidians.
I'll let everybody else Google that. We're not going to debate the ethics of it or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I've known like George has always done that where he will put certain dialects on certain species.
Yes, he's always done that, and there could be some. You could definitely make some arguments about, well, why are these people like that? And I mean, I don't know. I think George would probably say that he was pulling from different times in history. Sure. But either way, I will say, did not care as much for the lady Nemoidian's voice. I was like, it wasn't quite. It took me out a little bit.
Yeah, because you're kind of used to it one way.
Yeah, I'm used to it one way. Yeah. So now you hear a Nemoidian not talking like they're from, Japan. It just kind of threw me off. Yeah. But it is what it is. I can let that go. One thing I noticed in this scene, I feel like this is very important. People are afraid of the Jedi.
Yeah.
People are afraid because, she, as soon as Yord, he began to raise his hand, she was like, whoa, wait. That's not cool, man.
No.
And I mean, Yord was definitely leaning into the intimidation.
That's very Empire, very dark side.
It is, and then
to use intimidation like that.
In the next episode, not to jump too far ahead, but it ties into that idea. Kamir, he said something along the lines of, he was like, he said like, don't wipe my memory or whatever it is. Please don't do the memory wipe thing or whatever you guys do.
Yeah.
And whether he was being very genuine when he said that, I'm just saying that there does seem to be in the galaxy this idea of the Jedi are to be feared, I think, which is very interesting because fear is the first step in the path to the dark side. So just throwing that out there. All right, let's just get to it. My least favorite Jedi, my new least favorite Jedi. You already know who it is. I can't stand Yord, man. I cannot stand Yord.
Yeah.
He is insufferable to
Pompous.
me. Am I being out of line?
He's super uptight, and that bothers me. I do kind of see through a little bit. I'm like, okay, this is just what I'm looking at as a boy.
Absolutely.
Trying to prove himself.
Absolutely.
But yeah, he's like a Bible thumping, like rule book, like
okay.
Keep it all. I mean, even when Master Soul walked in and he bowed to him real quick.
Right.
It's like, come on, man.
Just to piggyback on what you said, whenever he's interacting with Osha in the ship, she's like, dude, do you really think that I would betray the Jedi? And do you think I could actually kill a Jedi Master? I have not been trained. Like, I'm not. Do you really think I would do that? His response was, it doesn't matter what I think.
Yeah.
And, the reason why I think that's an important line is because, A, he doesn't think for himself. And B, he rises and falls. You see it. I'll point it out in other parts of these episodes. He rises and falls on the opinion of others regarding himself. And he's constantly aiming to build himself up and therefore tear other people down.
Yeah.
It's just one of the most toxic, annoying things that I cannot stand. He's my new favorite, or my new least favorite. I'll say it like this. Let me make it positive. He's my new favorite Jedi to not attempt to emulate. How about that?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
he's the one that you want to be least like.
Yeah, it used to be Ki-Adi-Mundi.
I was about to say, where's he at on your Ki-Adi-Mundi?
It's like Yord, Ki-Adi-Mundi. It's pretty neck and neck. I really don't care for him. That said, I think we're gonna see. I hope we're gonna see some change in him. I'm not writing him off.
Yeah,
I would love for him to see the error in his ways.
I think we will.
Because like you said, he's literally acting like a boy. He's acting like a child. It's like, can you be a man? Can you stand up on it? Can you actually say what you think and what you mean and not look around? And there was even a time where Soul said, sorry, the names are coming to us, guys. We're really trying to take all this newness in. But there was a time when Soul said something and Yord was like, well, I don't know about that. And he's like, well, the Jedi Order agreed with me. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah, he rolled right over.
Oh man. I
feel like I almost feel like Soul was almost poking at him when he said that.
When he said what?
When he said, "Well, the Jedi Order seems to think." It's almost like he recognized how easily Yord is just like, okay, whatever the Jedi Order says. And he was just like, yeah, they say it, and he
sees it.
It was almost like he was putting him on display to see if he could become self-aware for just a second and see the error in the way that he thinks.
Let's talk about Soul for a sec. This next scene is when Vernestra walks in, which she looks great.
Yep.
Vernestra walks in and Soul is talking to the Jedi and, asking them to meditate and, what is it that they see? And there's a moment when one of the younger Padawans say, I see fire spreading and consuming everything, right? You could tell that put him back in the moment that they were talking about 16 years ago. here's what I'll say about Soul. And here's what I'll say about this podcast. We speculated a bit last week. We were going through, I listened to both the speculation I did with Jim and the speculation you and I did, trying to see, what we write about. Because there were some things that we were talking about that certainly came true. There's two sisters. We were on that months and months and months ago whenever, it was first starting to come out that there could be two characters that she's playing. But one of the things that I think first off, we had a lot of stuff wrong. We're talking about Anacia being this character that comes in and out of the story. Apparently she's dead. She's been dead for 16 years. There's a ton of stuff that we speculated on and totally got wrong. So if you're listening to this show because you enjoy, if you're watching because you like hearing people talk Star Wars, you like the idea of speculating, getting excited for what's coming, you're in the right place. If you're looking for somewhere that's going to get it right every time...
See ya.
Move along. This is not the pod you're looking for.
Yeah.
But one of the things we talked about was Soul, and I had speculated. I was like, by the way they were describing him, the idea that he would fall to the dark side, being that he used his training to keep his emotions in line.
Yeah.
I was like, what happens if he can't? But the vibe I get about Soul is that. When the Padawan brought up the fire, what happened? He didn't lose himself. He didn't lose composure. He felt it and was like, yes, that is also a part of the Force.
Yeah.
The way that the trailer always made that scene look was like, oh no, let's ignore that darkness.
That's the best. Yeah.
Soul had a line in the second episode that I really loved, and let me see if I can find it real quick because I know I'm going back and forth. He said that when he was talking with Osha, he said that he made peace with what had happened.
Yeah.
That's the difference between him and Dara. Torben, is that his name?
Torben.
I think that's right. And it seems like Kel Naka too, which we'll get to him. But I actually feel now, having watched him, not that he may not, quote unquote, fall the dark side or experience some sort of temptation, but he feels like almost the Qui-Gon of the series. Like he feels like he's actually dealt with the thing that happened.
I immediately got Qui-Gon vibes.
Great,
especially with the way that he was respected and the way that he was able to move through things so level-headedly.
Right.
And I feel like we had speculated, and I feel like I was kind of leaning towards the fact that like something bad had happened. He was a part of, or he has a strong conscience, and I definitely we definitely know something bad went down.
Something went down. We'll get to that and see what we can figure out. I did not care for Vernestra's attitude regarding this investigation.
Yeah, no, she was like, I can tell you still have a strong connection.
Yeah. And she seemed very open, closed, shut. Like I noted that it felt a little off.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this escape that Osha and these prisoners did. That whole scene, that whole sequence. Talk to me about it. What did you pick up on, Cameron? For people that are joining us for the first time on YouTube, which by the way, this is the vibe. This is what it is. It's just two guys sitting here talking Star Wars. We do it every week. We're on I believe this is our 44th podcast episode.
Dang.
So we're relatively new, but we've been doing it for a little while. But this is what it is. Just two guys sitting around talking about the things that they find interesting in Star Wars. So we
both play drums. We've got drums surrounding us.
We got drums surrounding us.
Comics.
Yeah, we're into all that stuff. And
I could live in this room. There's a bathroom in here.
Me too. There is. It's right there. But that said, we definitely like to look at things through a creative and oftentimes philosophical lens. But that said, we always like to kind of say also lightsabers are cool. So Cameron's our resident ship expert is the way that I view him. And so talk to me about the ship. Talk to me about everything that was happening. What stuck out to you as being cool?
Ship wise, I'm at a loss in this era.
Sure. I'm not expecting you to know the class and everything. Not until next week.
But it was really interesting to see the droids looked very strange that were like tending to the ship.
Well, did you see that they went back into the seat?
Yeah.
That was so cool.
That was weird.
I love that. But it was very imaginative in terms of like something we haven't seen before, which this show had a lot of.
It reminded me a lot of. You ever been to Disney World?
As a child, yeah.
Yeah. You remember Star Tours?
You know, I didn't go. I didn't go, man. I'm sorry.
That was the one Star Wars ride, and all it was, you just load into this vehicle, and it's a simulated like tour, and you run into a battle.
I've just never ridden it.
But there's a droid at the front of the ship that's like narrating, and it reminded me of that a lot.
Yeah, I think his name is actually Rex.
Was it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Dang.
And you know, I almost think he was in a comic or something.
Yeah, he was in the house. I think he was in the Halcyon or the Halcyon Legacy.
The money grab, the advertisement that Marvel did for Disney.
Yeah, come to our space hotel, please.
I was so annoyed. You know, that was on my pull, and as I'm reading it, I'm like, really? Come on.
I read it for continuity.
Maybe
but I was
now
like,
that
I know what y'all are doing.
Maybe now that it's gone, though, like maybe those comics are worth something.
I wondered about
maybe
that.
I'll check on eBay and see what we got there. By the way, I believe this is one of the this is issue 2 of High Republic. Maybe it's first cameo of Ernesto Rowe, but I threw it up here just for that
solid
reason.
pick
For that reason.
Yeah,
anyways.
I'm surprised you don't have your Marquis-on Rowe.
My Marquis-on Rowe, it's over there. I did look at it today, but no, I didn't pull it out.
No, I loved this. I love this scene of them in the ship. You didn't really know where it was going, and then it ended in a way that I wasn't expecting it to end.
Right, right.
Like they left her behind.
You're like, well, there's one more pod.
Yeah. And then she, in that one moment of just like, it is very much like Indara, like taking 1 second to try to save someone else's life, and then it backfires.
Yes.
But she was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna pull the starfish off your face." This like you're tripping over here.
Would you try a starfish? I would probably try it. I'm pretty open minded to new experiences. Like, I mean, I don't know.
I'm too OCD or like claustrophobic and control-y to have something like on my mouth where I couldn't.
Now that you're really
not that I need to talk, but I need to know that I can open.
But now
and close
that you're
my
walking
mouth.
it out, you're right. I'll pass.
Too many horror movies of people getting their mouths sewn shut or whatever.
Now the lizard from Boba Fett.
If I could
I would do that. I would.
If I could get through the initial like the lizard going up my nostril, yeah, sure. But yeah, she pulled that off of the dude, and then he just like lost his mind, ran straight for the pod, and just like was gone.
She was pretty crafty with figuring out how to survive, though. So again, really showing that these sisters are very capable. They're both very, very capable. I feel like. Next scene, Soul was able to quiet that guy's mind, which was pretty interesting, and I think that speaks to Soul. That speaks to his character, that he would be able to calm someone, and there's that scene, of course, with Qui-Gon doing it with Jar Jar in episode 1. Everyone's like, I think you overdid it, Master. But it seemed like he was able to do just right. So I thought that was really cool. The next scene with May seeing Osha, this vision, great directing, great writing. I really, really love that scene. There's something happening in this show that I want to sort of chat about here with this scene. But before I do, anything stick out to you as she's sort of going around and seeing this vision of her sister and kind of changing locations? And I don't know. What did you think about it?
It was trippy. It kind of reminded me of that Boba Fett episode with the lizard or something where. Yeah. It wasn't a memory. It wasn't a vision. Honestly, it was almost like the scene, the flashback Jedi. To the Clone Wars in Ahsoka.
Yes, very much like that. It reminded me of Last Jedi,
in the moment, but you're also in a memory at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Right. I'm thinking of Last Jedi with Rey in the cave with the mirrors.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Another similar comp. So here's what I love about that. There's that poem that they said, and you could tell that it was something that as kids they would have gone back and forth on. Says, "You're with me, and I'm with you. Always one, but born as two.
Yeah.
As above sits the stars, and below lie the sea. I give you you, and you give me me." Which is honestly pretty amazing, pretty beautiful. And it brings me to what I sort of feel like I don't want to say purpose of the show, but I'll go as far to say that. It feels like that poem, while it's about May and Osha, it also feels like it's about the Force, the light side and the dark side.
Ooh.
And I think that is what we are really seeing in this show. May and Osha are an allegory for the Force.
Absolutely.
We are seeing, even like in the title sequence, when you get the circle, the ring, which represents generally like the idea of two and eternal and infinite. That's a common thing, and especially in philosophical circles. And then we have that blue and that red that kind of emanate from it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what we're seeing. Even like Maz Kanata in episode 7, they say, "What war?" And she says, "The only war." In other words, the war between good and evil.
Yeah.
And there's so much in Star Wars about, we were talking about it just last week, this idea of rejecting the dark and only wanting the light, or vice versa in the case of Darksiders. Mm-hmm. But in reality, I give you you and you give me me.
Yeah.
And to borrow from other, philosophical things in the Tao, it speaks about how beauty and ugliness only exists because of each other.
Yeah.
Without one, you don't have the other.
Right.
Light and dark transition into each other. You got to have both sides of it. And again, Last Jedi, one of the best parts of the movie to me is when Luke is talking about the Force. He says to reject the light or to reject the dark is folly. Like you have to have both.
Embrace both.
And so the idea of embracing both May and Osha, like, you gotta. I just love what Leslie is already beginning to set up. Again, it's just really giving me very George Lucas vibes. Like I'm like, we're going deep into this. This isn't just, what a fun little adventure. Here's like I'm not picking on any other Star Wars. I'm just saying it's like this isn't just another. Okay, here's the hero's adventure, but formatted for this person. Like it seems like there's something really deep that Leslie and team are getting at, and honestly, so far. It's blowing my mind. It's great.
Well,
I love it.
Think about some of the imagery in comparison. Like, Osha, Jedi,
sure,
May, burning, like these memories of like this forest on fire.
Yeah.
Osha ended up putting herself in a terrible position because she chose to help someone. May willing to sacrifice someone for the sake of revenge. Someone who, as we saw, was a parent. We saw that little kid come out from behind the counter. So I think it plays out on a bunch of different levels, but I think it's just right at surface level too of like light versus dark. They are the same person, but two sides of a different coin.
Yeah, and I would hope that we see. I feel like the show could go many different ways, and we've talked a lot on this pod about the idea of like, do we have to kill all of our evil characters, like quote unquote evil characters, all the Darksiders? They get redeemed and they die, which luckily Crosshair, Bad Batch, they avoided that, which I'm very grateful for. But it seems like to me, if we are meant to take this, on this surface or this level of light side, dark, being, emblematic of the two of them, because you can't really separate them, I almost hope for them to be unified by the end of this. Yeah. And maybe to forsake the Sith and to forsake the Jedi and go off on their own. Because the Force doesn't belong to the Jedi. The Force doesn't belong to the Sith. I don't know. Very interesting. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah. Or to part ways and just accept, like, this is your path, this is my path.
That's another thing, because another thing that's happening in this show is a lot of people trying to move others into, you have to do this, you have to do that. And so that's a good point.
Somebody's got to get a haircut, though.
In what way? What are you talking about?
One of them have to get a haircut.
Oh, so we can tell them apart?
No. We know who apart, but the rest of the galaxy is like, she's obviously the one killing the Jedi. It's like,
I understand.
I was thinking about it, I was like, dude, just change your hairstyle.
She's got that little thing, though. May does. She's got that little like emblem, almost like a tattoo or something. And Osha does not have that.
I was more so talking like the Thundercat-esque haircut that they
I love that you called it the Thundercat haircut.
Well, it looks. I mean, I'm thinking of Thundercat in Book of Boba Fett, like his character, like he had the Raggedy Ann kind of yeah.
All right, so we'll close off the first episode. A couple things real quick. They didn't know that Osha had a twin. It was not in her records, which shows what? That the Jedi didn't put it in there because the Jedi are covering it up. Sound familiar?
Y'all did something sketchy.
We talked a lot about in the prequels. There were all these things that were covered up. It's like, I think it's time that we inform the Senate that our ability to use the Force is diminished. No, we can't do that. Oh, we can't tell them that the clones actually came from our enemy. We can't tell them.
Yeah,
they're just always covering stuff up. Yeah. Why? What are you so afraid of?
Yeah, insecure.
Fear.
Yep, fear of losing your status.
Once you start down that path.
Our boy Ben is going to be shaking his head at us right now because we're going down the we hate the Jedi Council road.
We don't. I know you're joking a bit. I don't hate the Jedi Council, and the things that a quote unquote a true Jedi would stand for, I would be like, yes.
Sure.
It's just this idea that you can pick and choose what's right and wrong for everyone and for everything. It's just It just never seems to work. It doesn't ever seem to work. It seems like the thing that you should be focusing on, especially at first, is yourself. And until you recognize that both inside of you is, yes, light, but also at least the propensity for darkness, you're just not going to be in a place to go around and tell other people what they can and can't do.
Right.
And I don't know. That's my main issue with the Jedi Order. But ultimately, I love the Jedi. I love democracy. All right. Soul reaches out for help. Soul reaches out to help Osha. Yord is seeking to control her. He's got the lightsaber, and it's just not looking well. By the way, I love the scene with Daphne Keene's character Jecki, where she says, and Soul goes, "What's wrong with Yord?" And she replies, "Nothing. He's Yord."
Yeah.
And then we see him being very Yordy, and he even says, this is earlier in the episode, he says, "I will redeem myself." It's like, bro, it's not that serious.
Calm your,
But again, yes.
Heightened. It's like a heightened sense of discipline, which, discipline is important, obviously, for everybody.
Sure.
But undo your belt one loop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take a load off.
There's a line in the next episode where Soul says, I think I wrote it down here, something along the lines of, he says, "Yord, don't let fear rule your judgment."
Yeah, I love that
It's a great line.
Very Obi-Wan again.
Very Qui-Gon too.
Right? I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Qui-Gon.
Yeah, but I feel like Obi-Wan would use it as well. You know? So, okay. Let's get into episode 2, and then we're going to speculate. I'm going to try to hold off all speculation until we get through discussing. But, bro, it's so hard.
I don't know if I have any faith in you.
It's just so hard because there's so much. There's just so much. All right. So this episode titled "Revenge Justice," written by, I'm going to try to get these names, Jason Micallef and Charmaine DeGrate.
Sure.
You can at me if I'm wrong. And anyways, directed by, again, Leslie Headland. StarWars.com had this to say: "The assassin strikes again on a far-flung world. Her next mark is Master Torben, a reclusive Jedi who took a vow of silent meditation and took refuge on Oleg. But this time, the investigating Jedi team is there to attempt a capture." I did want to note that Soul believed Osha before anyone,
Yep.
Again, very compassionate.
From the jump.
He's like, "I believe you."
Yeah.
And there was I loved it. It was actually, honestly, a bit touching. There was no explain yourself or there was none of that. It was just like, "I believe you."
I mean, the second he said that, the first thought that came through my mind was, I wonder if he's lying to her just to keep the situation calm right now.
Really?
But I mean, that was just like a knee-jerk reaction of me just being always playing devil's advocate, always assuming the worst. But it did sound so genuine.
Cameron, you must not let fear rule your judgment.
I won't.
Okay, all right. Osha knew Torben. So, again, this seems to solidify the fact that Torben, Soul, and Dara Kelnaka were all involved in what happened on their home planet, which they say, and I keep forgetting, it was something like It's not. This sounds almost like something out of Lord of the Rings, like Bolrog or something like that. It wasn't that. I can't remember the name. Sorry, it's out there. Google it. So Osha knew Torben because when they mentioned that they were going to go to Olega, I believe. I think I pronounced it Oleg earlier. It's Olega. She was like, "Oh, that's where Torben is." Let's talk about the scene with May and Torben where he's meditating and doing his thing.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that scene. It was really cool. Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of the scene in Book of Boba Fett where Mando and Boba are like going up against the the big Droideka-esque droids. They're just trying everything they can to just hit them through
through the
force
finale.
field and just it definitely frustrating to watch because she's like trying. It was almost like just give it up.
Yeah,
like. Even if you run up the wall, the force field will still be there.
Right. Friend of the show, Jim Stevens, came over last night. We all watched it. Me, Jim, my wife, Kayla. And he had mentioned that you could see whenever she would do it, that when she would like punch or kick, that dirt would come off. Like you would see the dirt come. I mean, what a great detail.
Well, because he'd been sitting there for over 10 years. They said. Mm-hmm. Which is crazy.
That's wild, yeah.
Which also goes to show you how serious this thing that happened was for him to go into complete silence over it. And then to come out of it and to say, "I've been waiting for you, May," and then to take the potion and just like off himself.
By the way, very interesting. There's a reason why he did that. And they even said when they found him, like, why would he kill himself?
Yeah.
There's a reason. I think that in his meditation, there was some, perhaps... And by the way, this is not, just to be clear, this is not a pro-suicide statement. Let's just be very upfront. But it did seem like maybe in his meditation, he found that like that was the way for him. That there was something by doing that, maybe that it would help, maybe free May in some way. Like maybe he gave May or he thought will give May some absolution in the future. Like,
it was almost like you think that maybe he's like trying to atone for his own guilt to find peace, or maybe it could have been the other way. It's like I've been waiting for you to find me so that I could show you how distraught I am over what happened.
It could be that. I'll say this too. Here's something I've learned in life lesson. You may think that all the problems that you're going through, all the injustice in the world, all the dark things that are out and about, that if you could confront all of the people who are quote unquote making these things happen, all the people that have hurt you, all the people that have done wrong things to you, that if you could get your justice, vengeance in this case, that all that would go away.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's not going to happen.
No.
You must face yourself. You must face the inner darkness. And so I would say that by Torben dying, and eventually I think, there's a good chance that all four of them will be dead. Mm-hmm. She's going to have to then reckon with the fact of like all these things are gone, yet still. And so in that way, it's kind of almost in a way going to have to put the mirror back up to her. Yeah, this is not going to, this isn't going to go the way that you think.
Right.
And so maybe that's why it felt very strange to me. I've watched it a few times. I'm like, really? He's just going to off himself?
Like, all right,
But maybe that's, what's happening. And maybe that idea came to him during his meditation as he was
and
seeking absolution.
Thanks to Kamir, which his interaction with May was fantastic, I think.
Great.
The way that he kind of like encouraged her and was like, he's seeking peace that he's never going to be able to find. It's like very depressing.
Which, by the way, is also telling May you'll never find peace either. Or perhaps it's just saying the Jedi way is not the way to peace.
No, I think it was all the Jedi way because he's obviously in support of this like vengeance mission. She obviously, why else would she enact this vengeance if she didn't think it would make her feel better?
So, I my next note pretty much was that Kamir is really cool. I like his character.
Yeah, I do too.
What he really needs is something only you can give him absolution. By the way, I believe it's pronounced the Barash vow or Barish vow. It's basically, we've seen it in the High Republic. It's essentially a vow to cease operating as a Jedi and to focus on the Force, which is not, in that way, it's not really that different from, I'm trying to understand the difference between that and like being a way seeker.
Right.
But that's essentially what the vow was. I think you can kind of get that in the context of the show, but that is not a fully new thing. We've seen it in canon with the High Republic, and honestly, I'll have to go back, but I almost feel like that's something from like Knights of the Old Republic. I feel like what's her name? There's this cat-like character, either her or Visas Mar. I feel like one of those two characters, maybe her name was Jahani. I feel like one of them took a vow like that, but yeah, that's neither here nor there. And then again, my next note: Sol has made peace with what happened. Yeah, I think he's the only one who has.
Yeah.
Because we'll still jump to the end and we'll pick our way back here, but obviously, Indara seemed a bit indifferent. She seemed very stoic to me. I did not like the vibe I was getting off of her. Yeah, she did not seem as someone that we didn't get a lot. I mean, she sacrificed herself for someone else. I'm not saying she's a bad person. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm just saying she just seemed a bit disconnected. She didn't seem like she was kind of all there, and maybe we'll see more in flashbacks.
It felt very similar to how I act in a lot of things, where it's like I recognize that it's there, but I choose to not allow it to like affect me.
Yes. I think we all can relate to it, and we've all acted that way at different points in life, and that seems like Indara. So you have that sort of this dismissing of it. Then you have Sol, who seems to genuinely have wrestled with it and made peace. Yeah. Not that he thinks I was great, I was good, but like it happened, whatever it was. And you know what? Like I'm going to try to learn and grow from it. And it seems like he has. Yeah. Then you have Kelnaka, who goes down the path of anger. Kelnaka's got an attitude. And honestly, I kind of love it. Oh, yeah, I really liked him as a character. I was like, oh, that's going to be interesting to see. And I'll say that that's the path that I can most relate to. Yeah. Anger for me for a long time was like, this is the thing I'm cool with feeling. So I can relate a lot to Kelnaka in that way.
I was a little bit underwhelmed by the Black Chrysanthemum reveal. Like, he seemed a little bit slow moving and whatever, but like, I'm looking at Kelnaka and I'm looking at the state of things and like his frustration. I'm like, I think we could get a ruthless, just like going berserk Kelnaka in this show.
The physicality of the way he carried himself was great. Jonas is doing a great job. He's he played Chewie in the sequel trilogy and Solo, and now he's doing this. By the way, just randomly, Solo, great movie. Go watch it. Also, while we're on it, also random, Donald Glover, new Childish Gambino album, crushing. Really? So good. Yes. Go listen to it. Anyways, back to this. So and then Torben, am I saying his name right? Yes, Torben. He seems like he's kind of gone into almost like a shutdown mode, like depression or something. I know he's meditating. I get that. But I don't know that he found the enlightenment that he was looking for. Maybe. I don't know. He's dead.
Because had he found it, he would have already made his peace with May. And remained where he was, or done something differently.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see four people, and again, I think Leslie and the writing team are killing it in this regard. It's interesting to see four Jedi all caught up in something. Come on, obviously something bad happened. It was a mistake. There was something that really went wrong, and they all handle it in different ways. And it's going to be interesting to watch and find who's handling it, quote unquote, the best. So I'm really interested in that. That's not something I was expecting from the show.
No.
And it's really delivering for me. Yord. Okay, so this gets back into Yord and his character. So we see by the way, very creepy, the young girl walking around. Not exactly. It's pretty unsettling, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
I recognize that too. I was like,
a little weird. And so Osha breaks off and goes off, and then of course Yord follows her. And they, of course, now they're wanting to accuse her again of killing another Jedi, and Yord says she didn't do it. and you're like, oh, has our friend Yord learned and turned a corner? No, because what does he say after she didn't do it? My sights were on her the whole time. I followed her when she broke off. Look at how awesome I am, dude. Oh, tryhards. You know, it's a blind spot for me. It's where my dark side comes in. Whenever I see tryhards, it just really gets me going. Yeah. It gets me going. I don't know, man. It's tough for me. Maybe I must be a little bit of a tryhard. That's probably what it is. I see a little bit of myself in there. Maybe that's
I got plenty of stuff that I look at that way.
Yeah. Man, I would really hate if I'm like Yord. I'm gonna have to do some meditation on this. But this whole scene with Yord, I do want to talk a little bit about the stuff with the young May, and we'll go back to the first episode when they're she's having the vision in the dream. Yeah, is that the Force? Like, is it a Force? Because by the way, she didn't know that May was alive when she had that dream, or is someone
pulling the strings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A la Palpatine in the prequels with Anakin and all of his dreams that he just so happened to have. Yeah. Is this something that a Sith Lord might be doing?
It could be. Also, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but it said in the crawl, it said before the rise of the Empire.
Yes.
Meaning this show is actually set 100 years, not before Phantom Menace, but 100 years before end of Return of the Sith. So,
hold on.
Pushes our timeline back a little bit.
Hold on. 100 years before the rise of the Empire.
Right. The rise of the Empire did not rise
until Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
So I would say it does move it forward a little bit. But probably I would say 13 years at most, because between 1 and 2 is 10 years and between 2 and 3 is 3.
But as far as like
87
Palpatine
years
goes,
he's certainly closer.
Plagueis, kind of something.
Plagueis begins to become possible if we're talking 87 years. Yeah. Because Plagueis could have been, for instance, Plagueis could have been if Palpatine was still serving Plagueis around the time of the Phantom Menace. Palpatine's in his, say, 60s. That's not. Man, I'm having to do math real fast. 90. I don't know, man. It's close. I'll give you that. It's definitely close. It really depends on how long Palpatine was under the tutelage of Darth Plagueis, I feel like. But also, I don't know the species, the Muns. I don't really know how old they can be.
Regardless, that was a sidebar.
It's a good point. I really appreciate that.
I do think someone could be pulling the strings. That was the first thing I thought.
Someone is definitely pulling the strings. I'm gonna give you an idea as to who, but I'm gonna say I'm doing good. I haven't speculated. We're 50 minutes in. I have not speculated at all. Okay, so they mentioned that there's something happened to the regular apothecary guy. Which, by the way, what happened? Did Kamir, did he kill him? Question mark.
I don't know.
Who knows?
He's pouring some drinks. Then
we get this scene with Kamir, am I saying his name right?
I think so.
Or is it Chimere?
I think it's Kamir.
Kamir.
Because I keep thinking about it. I'm like, Kamir.
Yeah, you did that last week, and I remember that. Yes, you're right. Kamir. He talks with Osha. Yeah. And then he kind of does this thing where he's like, "You look just like her." Like he figured it out. Okay. Interesting. And then he does this thing with the Jedi, and like maybe we'll let you go. Blah blah blah. And then we get the fight between May and Soul.
Yeah.
And he says this line. It's a great fight, great scene. I love that Soul disarmed her. That was awesome. By the way, I wonder if another one of the things that she quote unquote has to do is kill them with a lightsaber, because she went for both of their lightsabers. Yeah. Or maybe she was wanting to take the lightsaber so that she could defeat them in hand-to-hand combat. That could be. But she reached for Indar's lightsaber, and she reached for Soul's lightsaber, both. So is she trying to get the lightsaber to use it against them, or is she just trying to disarm them so that she can complete the task that her master gave her, which is kill a Jedi with your bare hands?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
It's just something I noticed.
Yeah.
But it was a great scene, and he says this: "I see your master has taken great pains to hide his identity, even from you. You couldn't tell me who he is if you wanted to." Interesting. Huh. So there's a Sith Lord out there.
Yeah.
It feels like the way it would have felt if you watched the prequel, the George Lucas films in order. Palpatine actually would have been. It would have been a secret, you know? I mean, of course, we knew, having watched the original trilogy, that Palpatine was the Sith Lord. It's really fun to watch Star Wars, know that there's a Sith Lord, not know who it is.
Yeah. Somebody's
really fun.
And it's not our red lightsaber guy either.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Interesting.
Nope.
All right. Well, we'll speculate about that.
Yeah.
Let's keep it going. Let's keep it
Sorry,
going.
I was tempting you there. You did a good job.
Thank you. I've learned from your teaching. Here's another interesting thing. Both sisters thought the other was dead. In a way, they denied the existence of the other. Sound like maybe the Force?
Yeah.
One side of the Force denying
the dark side.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
The episode ends with Sol heading back to Coruscant to speak with the Council. So we can assume that he, Osha, Yord, Jeki will all meet with the Council, Vernestra, and perhaps some other Jedi.
Yeah.
We'll see. Next week, and they'll get their quote unquote their next mission, which presumably will go to get Kelnaka, because he's obviously one of the targets.
Yeah.
And so they're gonna have to go to Kelnaka. We already talked about him. He looks like he's not happy. I really can't wait. I got the vibe of almost like I got a lot of KOTOR vibes in this.
Yeah.
One, the music, I know you don't know. The music felt very KOTOR to me. Very KOTOR to me. If you heard that as well, listener, viewer, please, leave a comment or write us in, because I want to know if I'm crazy on that. And then he also kind of reminded me a little bit of, I think his name is Hanhar, Mission Veo's Wookiee companion in the first KOTOR, but I was also getting some like Jolie Bindo vibes, hanging out down in Kashyyyk, just kind of a bit angry and well, I don't know if Jolie was angry, but he was certainly he was more in the middle of the Force. He wasn't a happy-go-lucky guy.
Yeah.
And so I just like that vibe. Last thing I want to talk about is there was that scene with Kamir and May. I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember May versus Osha. Where she like pulls the knife on him, and he's able to handle himself pretty good. He can handle himself pretty good.
He's skilled. I want to see more about him.
I do too. Are we ready to speculate? Because I mean, it's been an hour, and your boy has got some things that he's just has to talk. I gotta talk to you. I gotta talk to you. Okay, that didn't work. Difficult to see the future, and always in motion is the future. Meditate on this, I must. Anyways, I guess I didn't load up the sample properly. Okay, bro. Are we locked in on who the Sith Lord is?
It's not a Sith Lord.
What do you mean it's not a Sith Lord? Talk to me about that.
Well, it's not. So we're still in the era of like the rule of two.
Right.
I think.
Are we saying that there is only one Sith Lord, and do you not classify Sith Lords as Master and Apprentice? Only one of them is the Sith Lord. Which you may be right.
It could go either way. Like if I'm thinking of Sith Lords, I would say not. I would specify Sith. So
Vader was a Lord of the Sith.
Yeah.
So Sith Lords are both Master and Apprentice. I'm fairly sure.
The relationship between May and this Sith in particular, she keeps referring to him as Master.
Yes.
So when we say Sith Lord, it almost feels interchangeable with Master.
Yeah.
Which I don't believe. I think he may be an apprentice. Someone else.
Now that could be true.
Very similar to like think about the Dooku
and Ventress
vibe,
or even like I would say in some way like Palpatine and Dooku while Maul was his apprentice.
Yeah.
Or there's just tons of examples of that. Like the apprentice is always training up an acolyte in order to then take power away from I would say that you're right. That it's most likely the apprentice in the master and apprentice role.
Yeah.
But that said, to me, I still feel like they're Sith Lord.
Yeah.
And so
almost like a Jedi Knight.
Yeah. So the Sith Lord that we're all talking about, the only one that we've seen, are we locked in on who it is?
I don't think so. I'm not.
It's Khmer. Bro.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Hold on. Let's talk it out. Now, granted, it could be, is it the third eye or is it the tinfoil hat? Only time will tell. Okay. Is it just me? Am I crazy?
Maybe. I mean, I was watching these. We fell asleep last night watching them because I was watching them late, whatever.
And then you
I got
picked it
up
back
this morning. I was drinking coffee.
Yeah.
I don't drink caffeine, so I was drinking decaf. So I was still kind of waking up in my slow state.
Let me wake you up a little bit. Let me wake it up. Let me open up that third eye real fast.
There was nothing that was flashing in front of my third eye saying Khmer is the Sith Lord.
Let me lay some things out for you. I don't know that I'm getting all the evidence, but okay. First off, he to me is playing the drunken fool, which is an old trope.
Sure, yeah.
That in order to make everyone think that you play the fool,
almost like Chancellor Palpatine.
Well, yes, but even more so, like he's just a drunkard. Like like May treats him almost with like disdain.
Yeah.
She does not respect Khmer at all.
Yeah.
Okay. He is the one that was like, remember, peace. And she's like, I know, peace is a lie. That's part of the Sith code.
Okay,
now
that checks out because that monologue, I thought it was great, and I was like, this is a very like mature, advanced thing for him to be endowing on her.
Yes, and it could be a red herring, but I feel like the way that he's saying it and the way she acts is like, dude, you say this all the time. Shut up.
Yeah.
And who would be saying that all the time if not a Sith Lord?
Yeah.
All right. So that said, also the way that he handled the Jedi, like he seemed as though he was able to manipulate his way through. He seemed almost clumsy, but he said just enough of the right things to just get his way out of the situation. Here's another thing. It seemed like someone wanted the sisters to see each other.
Yeah.
And the one person that was like, I have a way out, we can leave tonight, was Khmer.
Yeah, that's true.
So then there is the fact that he handled himself so well whenever May attacked him, he turned it back on her real fast.
Yeah.
A drunken fool who had been drinking all day was able to do that? Come on, bro. Then just like we got a little bit of dialogue at the end of that first episode, his speaking pattern felt very similar.
Huh.
Just saying, there were just a few things, and it just seemed like Khmer was the one that was doing a lot of the manipulation.
So
it also would explain, where did the owner go? Where did the owner of the apothecary go?
Yeah.
Well, would just like a smuggler trying to make his way through the universe kill him? A Sith Lord definitely would.
Yeah. So do you think? Do we think May knows that Khmer is the Sith Lord, or do you think it's like
I know she doesn't, because Soul said you don't even know.
Yeah.
Soul went into her mind because she said, "Stop, get out of my mind." No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He is so good at hiding it that he's literally going around helping his apprentice. He's keeping an eye on her. He's keeping her on task.
Dang. Yeah.
Dude, it's Khmer. He's manipulating everything.
If so, then that sucks for May, because she said that line to Khmer about like, don't tell him I'm doing this. It won't fare well for you either. And he's like,
yeah, exactly. Dude,
that's wild.
Dude,
Sith Lord Khmer.
I'm fairly certain it's him.
Dang.
I love it if it is.
All right, Tyler.
Now, to be fair, let's put a couple things on the board. If you're listening, you're like, man, that's pretty compelling. Or you might be thinking, that guy sounds like a fool. I'm more inclined to believe the latter. Let me say why.
Yeah.
Leslie Headland herself has said, whatever you think is going on in the Acolyte is not what's happening. And I listened to our speculation, and granted, we had not seen the show.
Yeah.
That's the one difference here. But I listened to our speculation, and a lot of it was just like, bro, no, not even close. Not even close. That person, dead. They've been dead for 16 years. Yeah. You thought they were going to come around? No, they're dead. We were speculating that Mother Anastasia would be like Hondo in the sense that she would like pop in every now and then and do some help, but sometimes be a heel.
Like she'd be like a side thing.
No. Dead. Gone. So like, I'm not claiming that we're totally, we get it wrong on this show all the time. How long did I say CX2 was tech? Pretty much the entire season. How long am I going to say that Khmer is the Secret Sith Lord?
Maybe
probably
the whole show.
All season. How long am I going to stand on the hill by myself and say that Sabine used the Force in part 4 of Ahsoka forever until Dave Filoni says something to me?
I knew you were going to go
You know what?
there.
No, I was rewatching Ahsoka. Let me see if I can bring this back up. I gotta remember this. I gotta remember this.
We're off the rails now.
There was something I saw in Ahsoka that made me. I had the question I wanted to ask. I can't remember it now, and I'm making a fool of myself. That's okay. I'll remember. I will rewatch Ahsoka for the 10th time. And I will bring it back to you. But no, I did see something, and I was like, "Ooh, I bet if I put this to Cameron, he would prove me right." Yeah. So I'm gonna have to go back and remember what that was. My mind is on the Acolyte now, but I'll come back at you. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll come back to you.
You're really heavy on the conversion right now.
You're right. I feel like I'm doing all the things that I've said that the Jedi should stop doing. So maybe it's best that I stop here. As far as speculation, the only other thing is what happened at this place 16 years ago.
Yeah, my mind was wandering about that.
Do you have any ideas?
I'd
love to hear it.
Who was it that said we did what we thought was right? I think it was what was his name?
Was it Torben?
Torben.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Said that.
I think you're right.
Because he said, "I'm sorry, we did what we thought was right."
Right.
I think the Jedi killed
her
family because Soul came back at Osha and said, or maybe it wasn't her. Osha believes that May killed her family.
Right. And herself.
And herself,
died.
apparently. Yeah. I think.
Okay.
I wonder if this is not kind of like a Luke Skywalker with Ben.
I think it's probably more like that.
Type thing where the Jedi jumped the gun. They got nervous. They didn't know what to do. Things got a little bit out of hand. Somebody was dead. Now we got to burn everything to the ground. And they took Osha with them, either because they had to or because Soul had a conscience about it. And
she was left stranded.
Yeah, just kind of buried the story of what happened.
Yeah.
And spun this narrative.
I think that much is right. So let me give credit to Kayla, my wife, who watches these shows with me. We're always bouncing stuff back and forth to each other. And she had this idea. She said that she thinks that what might have happened is that, which I don't know, because now that I say it out loud, I have a rebuttal, but I'm going to share it.
Okay.
That they were testing Osha and May in their abilities with the Force to consider them for the Jedi Order. And that perhaps the test and what they were doing went awry.
Oh, no.
May started this fire and it just spread and consumed everything. It wasn't necessarily anyone's fault. It was just kind of like a faulty idea for the Jedi to be, I guess, like testing her in that way. I don't know.
We need to play this clip.
Okay.
Whenever we get it revealed, whether it be the last episode or what.
All right.
Just play it back. We'll just sit here and listen to it. And then we can talk about how wrong or right.
I would say the only problem I have with that theory is that I don't know that the Jedi were there to test anyone.
No, I think.
But something happened with Torben there, though, because he had his eyes go black in the trailer.
Yeah.
So some stuff went down between the Jedi and the witches. By the way, speaking of the witches, several episodes ago, we were speculating, probably when the first trailer dropped, probably May 4th. I bet that's when it was. We were speculating about the Coven of Witches
Yeah.
And I believe that I had brought up the idea that perhaps they were the Path of the Open Hand. It's the High Republic, a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Somewhere between then and the speculation I did with Jim and the speculation that we did, somewhere between there, I just said, they're the Path of the Open Hand. Like it was a fact.
Yeah.
It's not. So...
Yeah.
Again, this is a great first YouTube episode. I'm like basically like, we're wrong all the time. Sorry, we're wrong all the time.
Welcome to our YouTube
Welcome
page.
to the YouTube.
We're wrong.
It's great. Welcome to the pod. We're wrong all the time. But that said, I did want to get that out there. I think that just somewhere in all of the information I'm taking in, I just sort of took that and I put it in the bank like it was
money.
Stack of $100 bills. It wasn't. It was more like some. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it's counterfeit. Maybe not. But anyways, I just wanted to get that out there. That's all the speculating I care to do today. We've been here for a while.
Yeah.
We got a whole season to. I'm so excited. This show is. To me, I'm really enjoying it so far. I've already discussed all the things. I'm getting a lot out of this show. It checks a lot of boxes. Very different from Ahsoka. Very different from Mando, Andor, all the other shows. I'm really, really loving it so far.
Yeah.
I'm excited to go back and rewatch the episodes again because I'm like, especially we're going to definitely put on this episode and watch a little bit of Kamir stuff. I want you to tell me how crazy I am.
Yeah. I'm very intrigued by that.
Yes.
Now.
Quick programming notes before we wrap up. If you would like to help the podcast out, now is definitely the time to do it. Same thing with the YouTube channel. We're brand new on YouTube. We're still very, very young in podcast world. Our audience grew a lot during Bad Batch, but we're talking like we're still very micro. You'll see the numbers on YouTube. That's pretty much how big our podcast is. And if you would like to help the show, of course, please just keep listening. We're grateful to have you along for this ride. The biggest thing about growing the show and one of the reasons we're going on YouTube is we want this conversation to be a little bit more two-sided, not two-sided here, but two-sided here with the listening audience. We love to hear from you. We are an audio podcast. Yes, we have the video element, but if you want to be on the show, please record a voice memo about anything Star Wars. Send it in to starwarsafterparty@gmail.com. We will play you on the show. We would love to hear from you, especially if it's been a while since we've heard from you, or if you're a first-time listener, please call on in. Otherwise, you know what it is. It's podcast. Subscribe, follow along. You can do that on YouTube as well. 5-star ratings help. Likes help. Comments are great. Again, we want to hear from you. Written reviews are probably the biggest way that we see bumps in listenership. So again, if you're inclined to help out the show, that's how you can. Ultimately, we just kind of want to keep this thing going, us and you. It's a great time. I really enjoyed talking to Acolyte with you today. I'm excited to get this up on YouTube. It's just a new thing. Bear with us. We realize this isn't a grand production. We have all kinds of things we would like to do, but you got to start somewhere. That's a big thing that we've learned. So we're just starting. We're just throwing it out there. We're going to get better. It's going to be fun. I can't wait. Cameron, do we have any other things before we close?
I'm good.
All right, man. Let's land the ship. So, in 1 week, we will be back. We'll be back. We're going to be discussing the next episode of The Acolyte. I genuinely can't wait. I'm really excited for the next episode, and I'm curious how things are going to begin to unfold. We got a lot of things I had hoped for, a lot of things I didn't even think we were going to get, so I can't wait. Cameron?
Me either.
Are you pretty hyped on the show?
Stoked. I'm loving it so far.
Great.
Yep, exactly what I anticipated. All new stuff. Not touching anything that we know about. I'm excited to see some crumbs of tie-ins.
I think that we will begin to get that. I'm also excited to get some EU things as well, because I know there's been a lot of that. So I guess we'll see. Until next time, Tyler out.
Cameron out.
This party's over.